بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وبعد. In this video, I would like to talk about the new intentions that we put together to deal with spiritual diseases being renewed in the patient. Now, in order to deal with that situation, we had to come up with some new intentions because of the things we were dealing with. And it took about 2 to 3 months to put these new intentions together. The previous intentions are still valid. So you'll find the original 7 intentions, which patients have used for several years, they're still valid and they do help. So, and you'll find that patients sometimes get cured with those ones, you see. So they're still valid. It doesn't mean that those intentions, we're abandoning those intentions or deleting those intentions. No, those intentions are still valid and they're still on my website. So they're valid. What these intentions are, there's just improvements to what we were dealing with, because those original 7 intentions weren't dealing with the situation which we found ourselves in, and that's why we had to come up with these new intentions. Now, the important thing about these intentions is that they deal with the renewal of the spiritual disease. As you all know, or most of you know, that sihr sometimes gets renewed, and even the other spiritual diseases, you find that patients get them again and again and again. So these intentions, inshallah ta'ala, we hope inshallah ta'ala put barakah in them, and they help the patients basically put a stop to, bi'idhnillah, to stop these spiritual diseases being renewed if they use them. The importance, when you're doing treatment, the main thing which I found out from my experience, just dealing with my experience, it's really not so much the ayah of the Quran that you're using. It's really what I found. Again, this is just my experience. Other people might have different experience. It doesn't mean that their experiences are incorrect. If that's your experience, that the ayahs are really important to you, then fine, alhamdulillah, that's your opinion. That's no problem. I'm not disregarding that. But what I found from my experience, the main thing which helps patients and which helped me in my treatment is the intentions, getting those treatment intentions correct. So it's better for you to have certain intentions and certain things you're asking Allah for during that ruqyah, rather than just asking Allah for cure. We found that if you've got specific intentions, treatment intentions, and you know what you're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we found that the ruqyah seems to be much stronger. Just like I'll give you the example when we were doing ruqyah on that king jinni. Now that king jinni, I never knew that was in the sihr network. But when we added that intention to the ruqyah treatment, and even a master jinni, when we added those intentions, the ruqyah, alhamdulillah, became much stronger, and the king jinni died, you see. So it shows just having a general intention in most cases is not good enough. You really need to know what you're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for in order to get the to get the cure. So having good treatment intentions really makes a big difference in your treatment, in your ruqyah treatment. The other thing which we found, which is important during ruqyah treatment, is dealing with these external networks, these external spiritual diseases, these external spiritual networks which come off the patient, comes off the patient's disease and into space, basically. So into the space in front of them, not only into space, I don't mean that, I mean that in the area in front of them. That's what I'm talking about here. I'm not talking about space. What I'm talking about, these spiritual networks. Well, I have to be honest here, I don't know how far these networks go. Do they go off into the space? I don't know. But what we know is that these networks are the problem. That's where the issue is, and people need to deal with that. And not dealing with that, it's a big problem, you see. So a lot of us, when we start off our ruqyah, and I was in this category as well, we just used to focus on the internal problems, the internal sihr issues, the internal jinn. And we were never thinking really about, what's the proper definition of sihr? Where does it go? Where does it start? Where does it end? Is it just what's in my body? What about what's outside of the body? Nobody was really, not dealing with that. So that is really the two most important things which I found in treatment are getting those treatment intentions correct and trying to find the best treatment intentions for patients, and making sure that the treatment intentions include the fact that there exist external networks for spiritual diseases, and the jinn within those networks, and killing those jinn and asking Allah to kill those jinns. That makes a big difference in your treatment. If you're not really dealing with those external networks during your ruqyah, now, you're going to find it very tough, because what would happen is that you would kill those internal jinns inside you, and many people do. And many people will tell you that, my sihr gets renewed all the time. I kill that jinn. I know that jinn has died because I don't feel the effects of that particular jinn that I used to feel. It's gone. And what happens though? An hour, maybe a few days later, more jinn come in. And where are those jinns coming in from? They're coming in for those networks. So we have to deal with those networks. There's no way else around it, really. You've got to deal with them, and you've got to ask Allah to kill those things, because they're part of your disease. Nobody can deny that that's not part of your disease. That is part. You're connected to it. Your sihr in your body is connected to it. That's where they're sending in you jinn from. You see. Yeah. So that's really makes a big difference in your ruqyah treatment. What you will find in these treatments intentions, you're going to find in there that we've actually added in there the last two, the intention 5 and 6, which we will talk about, inshallah. And these intentions, you'll find them in the description of this video. I will explain the intentions later in this video, but if you want the intentions are in the description of this video, and then I'm going to explain them, inshallah ta'ala. What we added in these intentions 5 and 6, we actually had to add Iblis in there as well. And we have to be honest here. We weren't looking for Iblis. We didn't even know that he's involved in any of these things that we were dealing with. Just like the king jinn. We never thought these king jinn or king jinni were really involved in patients' sihr. We thought they're outside of these things. They're not really dealing with patients. No, but we found that the king jinn is really involved. He's involved in the patient's sihr, and that's what was renewing the sihr of the patients. What we found is that the patients were attacked by Iblis. And we were surprised. We were very surprised about this, and we didn't know what to do, basically. And it came to a point where I didn't know what to do, really. And it was a point where I remember there was one patient who was saying, Saeed, I think Iblis is in my network. And he'd said I've got sihr directly from a jinni. And then when I looked at the whole case of the patient, I was wondering, I wonder if that thing is Iblis himself, because this particular patient had killed a lot of king jinn. And what we found is a lot of the patients who are dealing with king jinn, and they end up killing those king jinn, they kill a lot of them, it seems that Iblis gets involved in their sihr, and will do direct sihr to them, or indirectly connect to them through a sihr network, or directly connected to them through a sihr network. This particular patient had, actually I had a few patients, maybe 5 patients who've had maybe 4 or 5. I can't remember now, it might be 3. I can't remember now, but I know that we had some patients who had directly something from Iblis himself. You see, other patients would have things like indirectly be connected to him, but I think maybe 3 to 5 patients had something. He had done sihr on them directly. So the sahir is Iblis himself, believe it or not. So we had to think of new intentions, and that's why we had to add in the intentions. You will see that we've added Iblis in there, asking Allah to cure them from any spiritual diseases from Iblis, and asking Allah to cure us from any networks from Iblis himself as well. You see, because they had to do something, because we couldn't just leave that spiritual disease there, and they never thought that, and even I never thought that they would be attacked by Iblis, but they were. You see. But I have to be honest here, most of the patients, when I did the diagnosis as well, I was shocked. I said, wow, they've got sihr directly from Iblis, or they're connected to Iblis. When I would tell them this information, the patients we diagnosed, they weren't actually surprised. Even sisters who have been suffering from sihr from a long time, they would say, well, yeah, I'm not surprised. you would think that someone would be shocked or say, oh no, why am I involved with this Iblis? Why is he attacking me? Why is he involved? But they just took it like it was something normal, and they weren't surprised about it. And I think that was because they've been suffering for such a long time. Nothing else really could surprise them, really, you know. And for them, it probably made sense that the fact it was taking so long to get the cure, that they're not surprised that Iblis was involved in their problem, you know. And we really shouldn't be surprised that Iblis will get involved with, in certain things. I mean, a lot of us, I'm included in this, would just think that he sits on his throne and doesn't do anything. No, he actually gets involved. I mean, we know that he tried to attack the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, you know, when the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was praying. And this is a well-known hadith. He tried to attack him, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam sought refuge in Allah 3 times from him. He actually cursed him, and I think he actually grabbed him as well and wrestled with him, and he felt the coldness of his tongue on the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, on his hand, you know, as he was choking him, from what I remember in the hadith. So the main point though is that he does attack, and the other thing is that he doesn't just attack the scholars, and that's what we would think, and that's what I would think, that why will he be attacking these simple Muslims? Well, I suppose the reason why he's attacking them is because they were killing those King Jinn, and they're asking Allah to kill the King Jinn, and that's why he was attacking them, you see. So when we put these intentions together, these intentions are primarily aimed at those patients who have been killing their King Jinns, but they're still seeing that the sihr is getting renewed. Some patients, alhamdulillah, get the cure from that. They get the cure. But other patients, it seems that it just carries on. And one of the reasons why it carries on is because Iblis himself is getting involved now. Because once he's seen you killing some of his army like that, and these are main generals in his army, he's going to come after you personally as well, you see. So, and like I said, a lot of the patients weren't really surprised about that, you know. So that's why we've put Iblis in there as well, because the patients were being attacked by him. Now, I have to be honest here as well regarding the issue of, I think, and this is my opinion, eventually all patients of sihr will probably somehow have something directly from Iblis, or their networks will indirectly go back to him through other jinn, or they will directly go back to him. So it makes sense to just leave those intentions in there. Now, if you don't believe me, if you think that, it's impossible, how can I have anything from Iblis? Well, you can do your own diagnosis and check yourself. You can check yourself to see if you've got, and use the ayah number 4 for this diagnosis, and see if your sihr goes back directly to Iblis, or see if you've got any sihr directly from Iblis, or see if you got your sihr indirectly goes back to Iblis. I mean, you could do that diagnosis. I've done that diagnosis, you know, on about 7 to 10 patients. And these patients were doing the, you know, and they had something, either they've got direct sihr from Iblis or other spiritual diseases from Iblis. They don't just get sihr from Iblis, they get other spiritual diseases from Iblis, you know. And they get other ones which we not really come across. And during this process is where we discovered this Kabal sihr that we didn't even know existed. And again, we weren't looking for Iblis. And we're not searching out for Iblis, where's Iblis kind of thing, you know. We weren't doing that, and we want to deal with Iblis. No, we weren't doing that. We weren't looking for Iblis, and we weren't looking for new spiritual diseases. But we came across them. So we came across something which I called Kabal Ain, which I described in one of the previous videos. Kabal Sihr. Then we also came across again something called Kabal, which we called Kabal Ain. An Ain which has got nothing to do with hasad. An Ain which has got nothing to do with ta'ajjub and being amazed. It was like an ayn which you would just get from a jinn or even a human sahir. And it would just be something to affect the person. It seemed what was happening is they were using this ayn to basically set up networks so they can attach sihr to these things. And that's what they were doing. They used these networks. So they were giving the patients ayn, this ayn which I called Kabal ayn, because I never really came across this before. And they would attach it to the ta'weed, and then they would give the patient sihr, you see. So we had to think of new things, new intentions really to deal with all of these things and things we've never seen before, and you know, and unknown spiritual diseases, you see. So these intentions, inshallah ta'ala, will hopefully clarify and deal with all of those situations, inshallah ta'ala. Now, if you used our previous intentions and they worked for you, then fine. You don't have to use these new intentions. So if you're using those previous intentions and they're working quite well for you, khalas, you don't need to use these intentions. These intentions, like I said, they're primarily for those patients who dealt with the king jinni, but they see that their thing is being renewed all the time. You see, you know, So this is what these intentions are for. You see. Okay. Let's look at these new intentions, inshallah ta'ala. Okay. Right. The first intention, the first intention you ask God, oh Allah, obviously. So the intentions are, and these intentions are obviously going to happen in your heart. So you're going to read the Quran, Surah Falaq and Nas, or Fatiha, Fatiha and Surah Falaq and Nas if you're treating someone, and just Falaq and Nas if you're going to just treat yourself. Okay. Intention number 1. Kill all the possessing jinn inside me, and you'll find these new intentions in the description to this video. So you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to kill all the possessing jinn inside me that I know of and I don't know of. That's the key here. I don't know of, you see. Excuse me. Because what we found is that some patients, they will have diseases that we've never heard of before. Like I said to you, Kabal, Sihr, Kabal, Ain, and there's things that and there's one particular patient had something I'd never seen before. And I thought, what's going to go on here? We're going to keep adding new intentions for new diseases, So we just left it. And so we just left the intentions quite broad, so it will cover everything, inshallah ta'ala. So you ask Allah to kill all possessing jinn inside. You ask Allah to kill all possessing jinn inside me that I know of and I don't know of. So if there's some jinn which comes from a particular new spiritual disease, that should be covered by this intention as well. You see. So you might have diagnosed yourself with certain jinn, Ashik jinn or whatever. You might have dealt. You got some jinn from sihr or whatever, and you got those sort of jinn inside you. But there might be some jinn which come from something that you never experienced and you never knew you had. Well, inshallah ta'ala, this intention should cover all of that, inshallah ta'ala. And it will cover new diseases as well. Okay, so you must have that in your mind as well, in your heart as well, when you're making this intention, that this I don't know includes new spiritual diseases that we've never heard of before, and also things that you know of but you didn't know you had, like for instance jinn from Ain. You didn't know you had jinn from Ain, but this will deal with that as well, inshallah ta'ala. Intention number 2, kill all the jinn that are connected to me directly and indirectly. So all of those jinns which are connected to you directly and indirectly in all of these spiritual networks, via all external spiritual networks that I know of and I don't know of. So all of those in spiritual networks that you know of and you don't know of. Now what we found is that there seems to be 7 spiritual diseases, and let's just name them briefly. We worked out there was something called sihr. Then we had Kabal sihr. Then we came across this Kabal Ain. Then we got this jinn possession. Then waswas conditioning. Then Ain, which we all know about, and Hasad. So they're the 7 we know of, and they're the main 7 which we've come across. Each of those 7 which I just mentioned will have their own network as well. So you include all of that. So all of the networks for these spiritual diseases in these networks, and there could be networks that we don't even know of. So you could have something completely new, a disease that we don't even know of, a new disease that you have. It has a network of jinn inside there. Okay. It has a network of jinn, and you ask Allah to kill all of the jinn in that new network as well that we don't know of, and to kill all the other jinn in the other networks. So that's what you're basically asking Allah to do. So this intention should include all of the networks and all of the jinn that you're directly connected to and indirectly connected to. Now indirectly is very important, because you find that some patients just maybe focus on what they're directly connected to. So there's a line, and they only look at that line which they're directly connected to, all of the jinns in there. They don't think about all the sidelines which are coming off that main network. Those networks which are coming off that main line. They're not thinking about that, and they don't include that in their intention. So the jinns, what would happen is that you kill all these jinns, and then the jinns in these offshoots here will come along and take over those places. So you've got to make your intention broad. You kill all of the jinn, all of the jinn, and here you make the intention as broad as possible. It will include all the king jinn that you're connected to, directly and indirectly. All of the master jinn that you're connected to, directly and indirectly. All of the other jinn that you're connected to as well. So you cover all of the jinn. You see, you don't leave any jinn out. Okay? Just a little point, side note here, in regards to the master jinn. That master jinn can be basically defined as, and this is how I got my cure, just targeting that, and in my network, and alhamdulillah, I got cured just by reading on that, and that dying, alhamdulillah. That basically, you can see that master jinn is like a ta'weed in jinn form. A ta'weed, like a ta'weed, but it's like in the spiritual form, like in the jinn form. How do we know this? Because I remember I was reading on one particular sister, and she had no networks. So all of this, so I checked, no external networks. All of the networks she's got are inside her, and this becomes important as well because I use that in the next intention. So all she has is networks for internal. Her networks are not going out. She's got all these complicated networks inside her body with all of the jinn and the hierarchy of the jinn as well. So you have a top king jinn. She had actually 2 separate networks. Each one at the top of it had a king jinni there. The king jinni at the top of the network. And then all of the jinn in those networks. When I asked, so I realized that all of the networks inside, so I tried to find out, where's this, is there a ta'weed? And she reacted. I was surprised. Okay, there's a ta'weed here. Okay, where is it then? Is it some piece of something she's eaten? Is it a watch? What is the ta'weed? Then, cut a long story short, I realized that the ta'weed was in some sort of spiritual form. And when I felt she reacted to that ta'weed is in some sort of spiritual form. And I was thinking, that's the master jinni then, isn't it? So then, when we did that diagnosis, it confirmed my theory, which was that the master jinni is like a jinn is a ta'weed in jinn form, and that's what she reacted to. And then I realized, because I was doing that diagnosis to find out where this thing was, so maybe we can attack it, maybe take it out of her. If it's something else, if it's in a particular place in the body, tell her to do hijama here. And then when I realized it's a jinn anyway, and I said, don't worry about it. What we'll do, we'll just ask Allah to kill all of the jinn in your body, from the top to the bottom, from the king jinn all the way down. And that's what we did. We didn't have to actually, in India, alhamdulillah, we didn't have to actually take that master jinni out of her through hijama, or she would have done that by hijama and take it out. But she didn't have to do that. So the master jinni, that's what it basically is. You can see it as a ta'weed in jinn form. Okay. So you're killing all of the jinn. So you're killing all of the king jinn and you might be connected to thousands, even millions, billions. I don't know how many you might be connected to. Your network might be vast. It might include trillions of jinns. You see, when you include all the indirect things as well. You see. So however vast this network is, you ask Allah to kill all of those jinns that you're directly connected to, indirectly connected to, no matter what they are, master jinn, whatever level they are, all kings, whatever they are, you ask Allah to kill them all. Okay, that's what you would do. You ask Allah to kill all of those jinns, you see. The next intention, going back to the second one, let's go back to the second intention. And don't forget, just to reiterate that point, networks that you don't even know that you've got, so networks that you don't even know you've got. Maybe there's an eye network that you're connected to, you didn't even know. There's a waswas conditioning network, which we were surprised when we discovered this, that you're connected to, and it's full of jinn, and you don't even know that you're connected to that as well. So that I don't know of will include those things that you don't know of, and it will also include, like for instance, like it will include waswas conditioning. Maybe you didn't know that you had this. That will include that, and it will also include other spiritual diseases, new ones, which we don't even know, which I've never heard of before. It will include that as well, because we have to get all of the jinn. We mustn't leave any jinni alone. You want all of them to be killed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And just another point here, some patients get worried about, oh, I'm killing these jinn. You're not killing jinn. You're asking Allah to kill the jinn. If Allah decides to kill the jinn, that's it. You ask Allah. You're not doing any killing. You're not doing any curing. You're just asking Allah to cure yourself, and you're asking Allah to kill the jinn. So you're not really doing any killing yourself personally. You're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do that. You see, so you don't have to really worry about that. You see. Let's go on to number 3. So then you, after number 3, you ask Allah to destroy, and all of these intentions you're saying them all at the same time, basically. You know, there's no. I wouldn't say there's no one is more important than the other. You're reading the Falaq and Nas just like that. I put it into these 7 intentions because it's just easier for people to memorize and to know. So it doesn't mean that number 3 is more important than number 4 or whatever. I know they're all important, and you read them all at the same time. You're reading the Ruqya with all of these intentions at the same time, basically. You see. So let's look at number 3 now. You ask Allah to destroy and disconnect me from all of these external spiritual networks and all internal spiritual networks inside me that I know of and I don't know of. Let's just first of all deal with the first part of here. The first sort of phrase or first sort of sentence here. Destroy and disconnect me from all of these external spiritual networks. So those external spiritual networks that we talked about, which had the jinn inside them. Now you've asked Allah to kill all the jinn. Now you're asking Allah to destroy those networks as well. The ones you know of and the ones you don't know of. Even those ones which are new, completely new to you. You're asking Allah to destroy them all. And to disconnect you as well, so they're not connected to your body anymore. So you want Allah to actually disintegrate them and destroy them, and you also want Allah to destroy them as well. Okay? Okay. The next part here, it says, and you ask Allah to destroy and disconnect all of the internal spiritual networks inside me that I know of and I don't know of. Because of that case I just told you about regarding that sister who had those 2 networks inside her, and we found out that the master jinni was actually the ta'weed inside her. Because of that particular case and the way the networks was all in the complicated network inside her, we added this here. All of the internal spiritual networks inside me that I know of and I don't know of. So you ask Allah to destroy all of those networks. So there might be some complicated networks inside it. So you might have a jinn in your head, which is connected to some ayn at the bottom of your head, bottom of your body, in the bottom of your leg. And you might have other jinns all connected. You might have different spiritual networks inside your body, and it could be quite complicated. Okay, just make sure the intention is broad enough to ask Allah to destroy all of those networks inside you, and destroy them all and disconnect you from all of those things inside your body. You see, and it could be from networks that you know of and networks that you don't know of. You see. So completely new spiritual disease that you're suffering from, and you ask Allah to destroy that as well and disconnect you from all of these things. So leave that intention as broad as possible. Don't restrict any of these intentions. So it includes everything in your body, all of those internal things inside you which you have. And it might be one of the reasons why sometimes it's difficult to get rid of some of these jinn, because they're attached to so many things and they're connected to so many other things. So you might have the jinn coming in through sihr, but it's also it's come through an ayn portal, so it's got ayn, part of ayn, and it has hasad, and it's somehow connected to other things. So then it's all complicated. So in order to really deal with those networks, in order really to deal with the jinn and that, you have to deal with the whole thing. Don't just deal with a little part of it, you see. So you make your intention as broad as possible, and you want everything to be destroyed and disconnected. All of the networks inside you to be destroyed and disconnected. Even those new spiritual disease, even any new spiritual disease that you might have as well. Okay, that's number 3. Number 4, then you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cure me from all spiritual diseases that I know of and I don't know of. So now you're asking Allah to cure you from all of the spiritual diseases in your body. So if you ask Allah to destroy those networks, now what might happen, you'd be left with some spiritual diseases. So you ask Allah to cure. They might not be connected up with each other, but you've destroyed basically the lines or the networks, but you've got separate bits of spiritual disease maybe hanging around. Then you ask Allah to cure you from all of those spiritual diseases, the ones you know of and the ones you don't know of, including any new spiritual diseases as well. You see. And there's no contradiction between asking Allah to kill jinn inside you and then cure you from jinn position. Because you've asked Allah to kill the jinn, and you might have dead jinn inside you. Then you want Allah to remove these dead jinn as well from you as well, to clear them out. So, cure can include that, removing these dead jinn from your body, basically. The next thing, number 5, then you ask Allah to cure me from all spiritual diseases from Iblis that I know of and I don't know of. So you might have some spiritual diseases directly from Iblis, as we found some patients who had this. And like I said, these are the patients who were dealing with those king jinns. When they will kill the king jinn, then they will get problems from Iblis, surprisingly, And like I said, we weren't expecting this. So we had to do something. We couldn't just leave them there. After I do the diagnosis, they're reacting to, they've got sihr directly from Iblis. What we're going to do? We're going to have to ask Allah. We have to ask Allah to cure them. And there's nothing wrong with asking Allah to cure you if Iblis is giving you something. And you got to, so because at the end of the day, Iblis is a jinn, and we all know that jinn can give you sihr, jinn can give you ayn and hasad. So just like you ask Allah to cure you from any hasad that you got from a jinn, or any sihr that you got directly from a jinni, because they can do it directly on you, Iblis can do the same thing. So you can ask Allah to cure you from something that Iblis is giving you, because at the end of the day, Iblis is just another jinni, Yes, he's the worst of the jinni, but he's just another jinni, So you ask Allah to cure you from all spiritual diseases from Iblis that I know of and I don't know of. So that will cover everything, inshallah ta'ala. So there might be some diseases that that he's given you, and there might be some, because some of you might have done a diagnosis, or some of you might do a diagnosis, and there might be some diseases that you don't know of, but you've got something from Iblis, you see. So you might not react from sihr from Iblis, but you might react, have I got any, when you ask Allah to show you, have you got any sihr from Iblis? No reactions. But then when you check for, have I got any spiritual diseases from Iblis, and you start reacting, then you know that you got something from him, you see. So that intention, inshallah ta'ala, will cover all of that. Any problems from him. Okay. Number 6, then you ask Allah to cure me from all external spiritual networks directly and indirectly from Iblis that I know of and I don't know of. So some of you might be connected directly to Iblis, as I've seen some patients, they've got direct line to Iblis. He's directly attacked them. They had a network there, so you ask Allah to cure them from this network. You ask Allah to cure them from the network. Other patients had networks which were indirectly going back to Iblis, but it was still going back to Iblis through other jinn. So some patients directly, there's a direct line going between them, their spiritual disease, and Iblis. Meaning there's no jinn in between, there's nothing in between, going directly to Iblis. He's targeted them himself, directly. Okay, and they have a network connecting him to Iblis. Then you've got other patients who will be indirectly, like, so for instance, this patient's sihr will go to a group of jinn maybe, and then go off to Iblis, something like that. Or it could be even more complicated than that. It'll be several jinn maybe, and it goes back to Iblis. Whatever it is, this intention should cover all of the networks from Iblis, inshallah ta'ala, And it might be, and I believe so, that's one of the reasons why these things get renewed, because we never thought that Iblis would be attacking us, and we never thought that he would attack us. So we would never even think about putting him into our intentions. It's just like when I was dealing with these patients had absolutely no clue that they will be dealing with him. So when I would look at the information they're giving me, and they're telling me this is happening, and this is happening. Oh, I'm connected to some massive ifrit in these 5 networks, and they're giving me all of this information. Oh, there's something in the network, and they're giving me this information, and I'm thinking, and patients telling me I got something directly from a jinni has attacked me, and I'm thinking, wow, you know what? I would then do the diagnosis. I would advise them, check if you've got something from Iblis, and then they'll do the diagnosis. So some of these brothers and sisters, they're quite competent in doing the diagnosis, and when they do the diagnosis, they come back to me and tell me, yeah, you're right, I've got something from him himself. And I said, there you go, man, you thinking that you didn't have anything from him. And I was saying to one particular brother, that's why the diagnosis wasn't working, because you never ever believed that you could have something from him. And that's why maybe your treatment wasn't working properly, because you never believed that you had anything from him. So that wasn't really in your in your hearts when you're asking Allah to cure you. Just like I said with the king jinni, nobody thought that the king jinni was there, so no ruqya treatment was going to the king jinni. And I had one brother actually telling me yesterday, he was saying that he remembers either he had some vision while he's having his ruqya, or he had some information from some other person that they would see jinn laughing at them, or it was in a dream. I can't remember what it was. But anyway, the information was either during the ruqya vision, or it was during maybe a dream, that they would see ifrit jinn sort of laughing at them and thinking that the ruqya is not coming to us, and they will see all these other jinn die, and then these big jinn, ifrit jinn, just laughing at the patient. Nothing's coming to us. You're not getting us. Why? Because they're not putting that into the intention, you see. But once you put that into the intention, these things get affected. You see, these things get affected, you see. And once you start doing that, affecting those jinn, Iblis himself gets involved. And then when Iblis gets himself involved, what you have to do, obviously you can't ask Allah to kill him now. We can't do that because he's going to be here until the day of judgment. What we will do is we ask Allah to cure you from anything from him as well, because we have to do something. There was a time where when a patient did tell me, look, I'm connected to Iblis, and he does the diagnosis, I'm directly connected or sometimes indirectly, and I would just tell him, okay, keep doing your ruqya treatment, brother, but forget Iblis, don't do anything to Iblis, just get rid of all those king jinns and those things you do. He will do the ruqya, then we'll get all renewed again. I said, what's going on here? And then what's the setup now? Then he tells me that I got all these new jinn now, all the other ones are dead, I'm connected to external network, and I'm connected to Iblis again, indirectly or directly. I said, that's okay, leave him again, leave Iblis again, just ask Allah to get rid of kill all these jinns below. And so I tell him, don't ask Allah to kill the king Iblis, forget it, that doesn't work. We shouldn't be doing that, because he's here until the day of judgment, so just leave it. And so he would do the ruqya and kill all the other jinn, and then he would get sihr again. I said, what's going on here now again? And then this time he would tell me that I've got something personally from a jinni now. Some jinni is giving me something. It's not the sahid now, human sahid is sometimes. Then I'm thinking, you know what, that's maybe Iblis himself now getting involved. So then we do the diagnosis, and that was the case. Subhanallah bihamdi, you see. So you have to ask Allah to cure you from Iblis and his stuff, and the spiritual diseases he gives you and his networks. But you mustn't ask Allah to kill him, you see. So number 6, as we said, cure me from all of the external spiritual networks, directly, indirectly from Iblis, that I know of and I don't know of. So that will cover all of these networks that Iblis sets up, and he might be the one actually involved in renewing the thing, you see, renewing the sihr. He's busy renewing the sihr on you, you see. You have to ask yourselves a question here. Why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in verses of the Quran, a few verses, maybe quite a few verses, where it tells us to take him as an enemy? He's our enemy. So we really shouldn't be surprised that he's busy attacking us, or he will attack us. He just doesn't attack the pious people and the just normal Muslims like me and yourselves. Normal Muslims who will come after us if you're practicing your religion and you're somebody who is doing your obligations, keeping away from major sins, and not continuously doing the same minor sins, then you're a problem for him. You're a problem. He's going to come after you. Especially if you're going to start doing ruqya like this and you start including these external networks, he's going to come after you. Especially like I said, if you end up asking Allah to kill these king jinn and they end up dying, then he will come after you, as we have seen here with these patients, you see. And the last intention is just basically asking Allah. You ask Allah for all of these intentions, so that you can get back to worshipping Allah properly again without any diseases. That's the whole main point of ruqya. That's why we do ruqya. And this is part of taken from obviously the original 7 intentions that I wrote. Okay, so we're not doing ruqya for any other purpose. That's it. We want to get better, so then we can go back to worshipping Allah properly again. That's why we're reading the ruqya. We want to get better so I can worship Allah properly without any spiritual diseases, you see. And that intention itself makes a big difference when you're doing it. It makes a big difference in the ruqya, as we have seen from the original 7. Tayyib, okay. So they basically the 7 intentions, the new ones, and you will find them, like I said, in the description to this video. Okay, let's go on to another point here. If you are new to ruqya and you just want to do a simple diagnosis and treatment plan, you can also use these new intentions, because you might find that some patients, they don't really want to know too many details. They just want to do a simple diagnosis, see if they've got something, and then start doing the treatment. They don't want to even know who the sahid is, where the ta'weed is. They don't want to know any of that. They don't want to know if they've got jinn possession or anything like that. They don't want to know who the a'in is, the one who gave them ain, or who the hasid is. They don't want to know any of that. They just want treatment. do a diagnosis, know that they've got something, do some treatment, and then do another diagnosis to confirm their cure. And you can do this with these intentions because, alhamdulillah, because they're that comprehensive, you can do this with these intentions, and inshallah ta'ala you won't have to really worry about using any other intentions, inshallah ta'ala. If you've understood them correctly, as I've explained them, if you've understood them, then inshallah ta'ala, your ruqya treatment that you do should be good enough. Okay, so what would a person do? What would they need to do? So if somebody wants to do that, they would read ruqya diagnosis on themselves, asking Allah, using all of Surah Falaq and Nas. Okay, and they keep reading Surah Falaq and Nas for about 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes, asking Allah to show in their heart, there will be the intention of Allah, show me if I've got any spiritual diseases that I know of, or any spiritual disease that I don't know of. So the I know of will cover all the spiritual diseases that you're familiar with, and I don't know of will cover even new spiritual diseases that you don't know of. And you read with that intention. If you get reactions, then what we can say that you've got a spiritual disease. What exactly it is, we don't know, but there is a spiritual disease there because you're reacting. And that's how we know that you've got a spiritual disease, because the mere fact that you're just reacting. You see, that's how we know that there is a spiritual disease there, is because you're reacting to the ruqya. You're reacting to the ruqya. Okay. So once you know that you got those reactions, then what we will do, okay, then use these new 7 intentions. Start treating yourself. Start treating yourself with these new intentions, And what I would say there is, don't do any more diagnosis. Just keep doing your treatment. You might be a month, might be 2 months, might be 3 months. Okay. Obviously, make sure that you understand those intentions properly. Make sure that you are following Islam properly, that you're not doing any major sins, and you're not continuously doing the same minor sins. Okay? All right? And I have to be honest here. That is quite easy for most Muslims to do, really. We all can get to that level where we're not doing major sins. Because if you keep continuously doing the same minor sins, like listening to music, if you keep continuously doing the same minor sins, then it ends up being a major sin, So we're all able to get to that level where we're not doing any major sins and not continuously doing the same minor sins. We can get to that level. So if you're on that level, then you just keep doing your ruqya treatment. Inshallah ta'ala, the cure will come. You can use those new intentions and you just keep reading. You keep reading however long it takes. And then when you'll come to a point where you're not getting any more reactions during the ruqya itself. Do ruqya treatment now. With those intentions, and you're just using Surah Falaq and Nas on yourself, you keep reading as much as you can. Okay, preferably will be to do an hour a day, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon, 20 minutes in the evening. Okay, and you read like that every day, and it'll come to a point where you get no more reactions during your ruqya treatment. Previously, you get some sort of reactions. Obviously, the reactions won't be as same as ruqya diagnosis, because ruqya diagnosis, you're asking Allah, give us a reaction, show us if we've got sihr or whatever, Here, you're just asking Allah for the cure. So what we found from experience is you don't get many reactions during the treatment itself, because you're not really asking Allah for reactions, you're asking Allah for the cure. But you get some sort of reactions. So there will come to a point where during your ruqya treatment, you're not feeling really anything. 2-3 days go on like that. And what I would suggest you do there to confirm that you're cured, and this is very important, don't jump the gun and just say, I'm cured now because I'm not getting any more reactions to ruqya treatment. No. Do a ruqya diagnosis, the same that you did at the beginning of your this process. So you do, again, use all of Surah Falaq and Nas and ask Allah to show me if I've got any spiritual diseases that I know of and I don't know of. And you keep reading Surah Falaq and Nas for about 20 minutes. If you find you're getting no reactions, then we can say, hey, it looks like that you're cured. But what I would do that for the next few days. Like that, asking Allah, doing ruqya diagnosis, Allah, show me if there's something there. Give me, when you're saying Allah, show me something, you mean Allah, give me reactions, visions, whatever it is, reactions in my body to show me that I've got a spiritual disease. If you have no reactions, if there are no reactions, and you've done this for a few days now, 3 to 5 days, and you're reading like that, no reactions, then we can say, alhamdulillah, that you're cured. You see? That's what we can say with regards to that. Finally, I would just like to say, with these intentions, these new intentions, you can actually do the jet hijama treatment with them as well. So all of those, all of the talks I've talked about using the jet and how to use the jet, you just have to change the intention. So it'll be the same process, the same jet process. The only thing that will change, so jets 1, 2, 3, 4, or maybe say sorry, not maybe Jet 1, because Jet 1 just deals with the jinn. Jet 2, 3, and 4. What you do, you just, in intention there would be all of the spiritual diseases, the known ones and unknown ones. That's what you will add there, when you're doing the intention. So you can use the same intent, just basically substitute, just change the intentions, the intentions that you were using previously for the jet, just change them and use these intentions. That's all you need to do, inshallah ta'ala. I think that's the end of that. Yeah, if you have any questions, then my email is on my website, or it's in my articles, some of the articles I have. You can email me and ask me questions there if you want, or if you need more than just an answer via an email, then you could actually book an appointment through my website. Have a Google Meet, inshallah ta'ala, with me, and you can, if you need more detailed response, then please book an appointment through my website. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.